Yeah, yeah. But honestly, Dan, I don't think you're going to break the bike course record. Right, good afternoon. It is Monday the 19th of June. So it's been just over a week since I last posted the video, which was a race review video. And I've been racking my brains as to what value could I add to YouTube, as I don't intend to sort of make videos for the sake of it. I haven't necessarily done a lot of training in the last week or so post-race. I've had a recovery week. The last week I've sort of getting back into it. However, I had a rather interesting phone call last night with another YouTuber and mid-pack age grouper, I think was his self-defined definition, which we all know and love, Triathlon Dan. And the main reason for that phone call was for me to impart some knowledge and wisdom to him as he goes out to do Challenge Roth this weekend. And it got me thinking, and I thought perhaps I should do what Triathlon Roth's sort of main tips and tricks are for this race. I have spoke to some of the other people that I know doing it, like Stephen Derritt and Zach Cooper, about some things to look out for, some things to consider. So I'm going to try and be relatively quick because I spent over an hour on the phone to Dan, and I'm pretty sure you don't want an hour-long video of me waffling on about Roth and what power Dan should do at what part of the course. So I thought I'd break this down to swim, bike and run, and maybe some transition stuff. The swim at Roth is usually a wetsuit swim. It can be a non-wetsuit swim for the pros. I believe it was last year, but you can typically think it's going to be a wetsuit swim. The canal you can only swim on normally the day before the race. So it is an active canal, and you would be surprised at how big some of the boats are that use that canal. So you cannot swim in it during the week, but there normally is a hosted swim session in it on a Saturday morning where you can go down and you can swim the course basically, and you will see a lot of the pros and a lot of the athletes go and do that. The canal itself is actually quite shallow along the edges, and this is kind of useful for you getting in and out of the water and getting acclimatized. But the top tip here is that Roth has wave starts based on your predicted finish time or whatever you've predicted yourself to finish. They also have like a sub-9 wave, a female wave, I think it's multiple female waves, and then all the way back to relay teams, etc. This means that in theory, or what you'll end up doing is potentially getting in the canal, you swim about 100 to 200 meters to the actual start line, and then you could be there treading water. So my tip, even for someone who's only 5'8", was you can actually stand to the side in the canal and actually stand up and not waste energy treading water for sort of 5-10 minutes as each wave goes off. So you know, you can look at your watch, or you know what time your wave goes. Everyone will have the same colour hat. You can sort of stand at the side of the canal once you've got in, and then you can make your way a minute or two before the start line, before the start gun goes, sorry, and therefore you're ready to go rather than wasting energy. You'll often hear people talking about the outside of the canal is quicker than the inside. I personally don't know, or no one's ever like proved that to me in data. It kind of makes sense if it's like a swimming pool, in the sense that the water's hitting the floor and you're pulling moving water and you're in a big train. But for me, I don't believe it really matters for us sort of age groupers in particular. You certainly don't see the pros often go off to a side, so that usually suggests that it isn't actually quicker in either part. The last bit for the swim is it is a bit long. Now I'm not just saying that because my watch measured it long when I did it, but if you look at times that athletes normally do right at the top end to back down to the middle of the field, or the top age groupers, it does come a bit long. I think Jan swam a really high 49 last year, and we know he's capable of swimming sort of 46, etc. So it's definitely at least 100 meters long, and it also feels quite long just as a swim. It's one big loop. You swim out to a bridge and you think that's halfway because you're like turning around and coming back on yourself, but actually when you swim past the start line and past where you exit the water, you keep going, you go under another bridge and back on yourself. So be prepared for that mentally. In terms of transitions, and this is applicable for both bike and run transitions, T1 and T2, they are super fast. The volunteers are amazing. So when you get out of the water or when you're coming off your bike, if you help the process in shouting your race number, and if you can't remember it because it's on your back, write it on your hand or something, by you shouting out 136 or whatever your number is, the volunteers will have an even better chance at being stood next to your bag, holding it out for you. And it's really simple then to grab it, take your wetsuit off or put your bike shoes in or whatever it is, and off you go. So that's the swim and transitions. Onto the bike. Now bike and run, and I would describe this as probably one of the most honest courses, particularly that I've ever done. I've obviously not done every single Ironman distance in the world, but in terms of an honest course, what I mean by that is, yes, it is fast. It's definitely a course, if you're not fit or you are trying to overachieve to your ability, you will get found out. Now the Roth bike course is a 2-loop course. It is very easy to go way too hard on the first lap, like it is in most Ironmans, but in particular this course, because it's super fast roads at times, there's long straights to get in the aero bars, and there's so many athletes racing, it's really easy to get in some good groups and work quite hard and go quite fast and be going way faster than you thought you might do. So bear that in mind. Do save yourself for that second lap. It's a big old second lap in an Ironman. It's not like 30k, 40k, you know, it's another 90k, and it can be a very lonely 90k, even with all the competitors, if you've blown your doors off. The bit of the course that I think is the most key part, obviously Solar Hill is like the most famous climb, and it is brilliant. The atmosphere is the best I've ever felt on a bike. The biggest smile on my face was amazing. So 100% look forward to that. However, the climb out of the town at the southern part of the course called Greding is pretty brutal. It's really steep for a couple of minutes at the start, and you're effectively climbing. It took me about 15 minutes to get up to the top of where you crest the hill and you complete a few switchbacks. Now that's a long time, 15 minutes. It's a long old drag up. As I said, the first couple of minutes is super steep, so you will be out of the saddle, you will work quite hard, and you do come at it from pretty much a standstill. You come left off a main road, you do a hard left onto the hill, so you're also not coming at it at speed. So bear that in mind. When you're coming down towards Greding, it's super fast. Stay in your TT bars, be aero, even if your back's hurting or you're not comfortable, because once you hit that hill, you're going to be out of your bars for quite a while. You're going to have time to stretch, you're going to be climbing, etc. The other thing that's unique for Roth, and this applies for the run, but we'll cover it in the bike one, is people can give you your own aid and nutrition at the end of aid stations. So if your coach is there, your family, your friends, people you trust, and you want your own nutrition, there's plenty of aid stations on the course. It's really easy to get out to some of the aid stations on the course by car, if you've got a car at the swim start, and you can give people bottles that actually have your nutrition and hydration in, which is brilliant. If you don't, Roth is great because it does use proper 750ml bottles that fit in everyone's cages, etc. So bear that in mind. And the last thing to know about the bike is they are very hot on drafting at this race, both in the pro and age group field. Now, if you get caught drafting at Roth, I believe it's a 12-metre distance is what they abide by, not 20 metres. But have a check, because that might change year to year, depending on how this video ages. If you get caught drafting, you not only get a time penalty, when you start the run, after a couple of miles, you have to do an extra 1 kilometre loop. There's an out and back stretch that only the drafters do. And you'll see it when you come out of transition, you complete a couple of kilometres down towards the canal, and then there's a big sign and it points to the penalty 1k. So you'll actually run 43.2k if you get caught drafting, plus the time penalty. So it's not worth it. It never is worth it. But if you do find yourself encroaching on someone's wheel, make sure you go past them and then back off. Make sure you get ahead, use those 25 seconds or whatever it is. Just get in front of the person and then let the gas off. Don't think, oh, I was only 4 or 5 meters away, I'll sit up now, because you will get caught. There's normally a lot of motorbikes out on this. Lastly, onto the run. Now the run is unique in many ways, in the sense that it is a 1 loop run. There's a lot of out and backs, but effectively you don't run any of the course twice, which is good, and that's quite unusual for a full distance. The first couple of K is downhill, not a 5-6% downhill, but it is a slight 1% down to the canal. It's about 3 to 5k. So we always run the first couple of k too fast, but bear that in mind. Do not go out too quickly. Once you're on the canal, it's 2 out and backs. The first one's to the right is the shorter one, and the second one to the left is the much longer one. Now the second one is exposed the whole time. If it's hot, you are going to be in the sun all the time, and it is very lonely on that part of the course. A lot of people come down to where the canal and the run course meet, because you come past there a few times, so it's a great place to see people. There's bars down there, there's music, but that long out and back stretch is lonely and is just athletes basically and aid stations, so bear that in mind. The other thing when you're down on the canal is my GPS thought I was running on the other side of the canal. So if you are planning to run to pace, have an idea when you're going past the mile or kilometre markers what you should be doing, because you may get the odd spurious split for like either a super fast or a super slow kilometre, and you don't want that to throw you off or dishearten you. So have an idea of your heart rate, have an idea of your effort, but bear that in mind. And the last part on the run is the back end of the run. The last 10k is really, really hard. Depending on what kind of athlete you are mentally, me personally, I wanted to go and look at the last 10k, so I knew what was coming. So I did one of my pre-race runs out on that part of the course rather than on the canal. But effectively, it's a good 3-4k climb up to, I think the town's called Buchenbach. I've probably butchered that. You run around a duck pond and you come home, and you think, great, I've got a 3-4k downhill now and then 1k into the finish. But as you all know, as I'm sure, running downhill at the back end of an Ironman is almost as worse as running uphill. So depending on if you've done the race before, or if you don't want to know, you just will deal with it on race day, don't go and look at it. But I suggest if you've got the time, even if it's to drive it, you go and have a look at the back end of the run course rather than what the canal looks like. The canal is just a flat gravel path, like any other flat gravel path. There's nothing special about it to some degree, but go and look at the back end of the run course. It is pretty shaded, the back end of the run course. You go through trees on either side of the road. That's the one saving grace of it. So if it is a hot day, it is cooler at the back end of the run course, but do be prepared to have to work quite hard on maintaining whatever pace you want to run. If you're targeting a fast marathon, that last 10k is made a hell of a lot harder just by the terrain. That's it. You run into a stadium to finish the race. Don't do what I did. If you are someone that's fast enough and you're on for a sub 9, I didn't know until after the race they hand you a bouquet of lovely flowers, and when I got handed a bouquet, as I was running into the stadium, I didn't know what it was. I threw it on the floor. I did the loop of the stadium, finished, and I could have had a lovely souvenir to give my girlfriend or my mum as such. So if you are lucky enough or fast enough to be under sub 9, take your bouquet of flowers, and obviously keep hold of that, because I think they last forever. They're like dried, especially, something like that. Enjoy it. The post race is amazing. It's the best heroes hour you can go to. The stadium is packed. It is a logistical nightmare. I know many people will be staying in Nuremberg or surrounding areas. Do you stay? Do you come back for it? But if you are able to go to it, I thoroughly recommend it. You can have some great beer. You can watch some fantastic athletes finish in the dead of the night. There's fireworks, laser shows, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and it is brilliant. Lastly, if you are doing it, look out for potentially some super shoes that we might not have seen before. For those of you that follow Patrick Lang on Strava, he has hinted that he's testing out some new shoes, and there are rumours that Challenge Roth have relaxed the shoe rules that Ironman and other people have brought in, or other event organisers. So anything goes, apparently. And it looks like Adidas have made a pair of shoes for Patrick. We know that they had some illegal shoes previously, or what are deemed illegal shoes. And I fully expect Patrick is going for at least, I'm sure he's going for the win, but he is undoubtedly likely to be going for the run course record and potentially the fastest run ever in an Ironman. I think that's something on his sort of like bucket list, and there's a lot of sponsors and bonuses linked to that probably, but it'd be fantastic to see. And the second thing is the whole bottle camelback trend that's in the triathlon world at the moment. Challenge Roth apparently have banned anything down your tri-suit on the bike. So if you were planning on putting a bottle or a bit of Tupperware or a hydration Camelback down your tri-suit. Unfortunately, it looks like that is banned. No reason, I believe, has necessarily been given, but due to some of the crashes at Hamburg and some of the stuff recently, it looks like they have stopped that, and that's for pros and age groupers. So yeah, that's my summary of Roth. It honestly is the best race I've ever done. I would rather do that race pretty much than any other race in the world. For me, it was leaps and bounds ahead of Kona, just in terms of the atmosphere, how challenge look after you. There's loads of freebies. The race village is really cool for food and drink. The whole of the area, you know, every household, every village you go through is cheering. You know, there's none of this sort of like the locals don't want the race. They certainly do. And I can't wait to go back next year, to be honest. It's going to be a race I definitely want to do again. And for anyone out there supporting or racing, I wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.